Well, we welcome you once again for the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder. It is Buffs Primetime, week number 5 of the college football season. Colorado coming off a 45-17 loss to UCLA last week. And now on Saturday, they take to the road for the first time in league play on Saturday night. We'll come from Arizona Stadium down in Tucson, Arizona. Weather's not supposed to be too bad down there in the desert. That's a 7:30 Mountain Time kickoff. Gary Barnett, and this is kind of a treat this week. George Hippolyte is going to join us on the sidelines this weekend. George, you remember, was not only a very good player for the Buffaloes a number of years ago, but a great personality and a very smart guy. In fact, he's got a great law practice going now here in the metro area. So George is going to join us on Saturday on the sidelines. He's about to take on the Wildcats. Gary and George and I will hit the air at 5:30 on Saturday afternoon as the Buffs will take on the Cats down in Tucson as the head coach is joining us here, Carl Durrell. By the way, we've got Clay Patterson coming up, tight end day today. And then Austin Smith. We were going to have one of the other tight ends, but something happened with the schedule, so Austin Smith is going to join us. Carl, welcome.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
Working to get better. Yeah, working. Did you hear me?
No, I can hear you. Yeah.
Working to get better.
All
yeah,
right.
we're just we had a good week. You know, we feel like we're trying to attack the details of the things that that's been really being a problem for us.
Sure.
But there were some things that we can build off of last week too. So, both those things are going pretty well.
Go back and talk about that UCLA game. Say things to build up. Tell me some of the things you took away from tape and you said, okay, this is moving in the right direction.
Well, I mean, quarterback play, I think, really helped give us a little bit of a spark offensively. So I think with Owen and continuing to start with him right now going into this next game, I think he's the right choice right now. He does have a chance to can improve from what he did a week ago. I thought he saw the field pretty well. I felt he made some pretty good throws. There were some throws that were suspect at times, but I thought overall his body of work was pretty solid. So for his first time playing, so we're going to build on going with him going into this week, and we've had a really good week of preparation from that standpoint. Defensively, I felt like we did generate some pressure on third down and created some issues for DTR last week, and we need to kind of build on those things, build on the success of some of the things that we did in the course of the game, build on those things, and then subtract the things that we don't do well. Some things that are maybe confusing for our players, maybe it's not right for them to do and for a number of reasons, but we need to kind of just really do some things that are really honing in on our players' skill sets.
When Owen got here in the camp, and I remember Gary and I were standing out of the practice field first or second day of practice, when camp got underway right around, August 2nd, I guess. And Gary says to me, he goes, who's number 7 out there? And I said, that's the McCown kid. And right away he said, well, that kid's got something. When you first saw him, even as a recruit, what struck you about Owen McCown?
You can tell that he has some presence about playing the position. I've known Owen for years. It was kind of a recruiting advantage for me knowing his dad very well. I've worked with his dad 2 times in the NFL to 2 different organizations. So I've known Owen since he was a youngster growing up, and he's developed to be a pretty good player, and we went through the recruiting process, and I think he felt comfortable with what we were trying to establish here at Colorado. So when he came here, and it was just really a factor of him being comfortable in our system, and I think he's done a great job of learning our system pretty quickly with Mike Sanford and the group on the offensive side. So he's just really kind of closed the gap with all the veteran players. He's closed the gap with the knowledge of that he's caught up to them. Mm-hmm. So now it's just a talent for talent thing, and he's definitely a guy that has a little bit more, I think, zeal for the game than the other guys right now.
You always hear about, coaches' sons, right? Yeah, they're around the game, they learn the game. Are there some similar qualities for a guy like him that grew up around his father and his uncle who played in the NFL and coming from a football family? Can you kind of does he have those intangibles, if you will?
It's just hard to say that. I mean, those guys that I've worked with, like Josh was dad. Well, he was in the NFL about 4 or 5 years prior to me even meeting him.
Right.
So he's been in the league a long time, and he's had a 16-year career. So there's some things that he's earned along the way that Owen's going to earn along the way too in the college level, and then he'll get to that point if he does get an opportunity in the NFL. That's another thing. But he does have the systematic processing of how to function as a quarterback. I think that's the one thing that is an advantage for him. He's learned from his parent, from his dad, and from his uncle, is that he does have an approach to it that really probably gives him a little bit of an edge.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. So when you first off, take us back to when you sat down. I think that was a week ago Sunday, right? You sat down and said, hey, we're going to start you this ball game. what's his response? And under those circumstances, Carl, do you end up talking to his dad, or because he's an 18-year-old young man, do you just deal with him, or how does that work?
We talked to both.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked to him. We thought this might be a great opportunity to give him an opportunity to do it, and he was excited. He was excited and ready to go, didn't bat an eye, all those things. And we did talk with his dad about it as well. That's what we're thinking of doing, and his dad was for it too. So it was a consensus approval about the process of him getting the start of his college career.
Yeah. That is an interesting line from a college standpoint when you're dealing with an 18, 19-year-old young man. But still, do you communicate with their parents? Is that a common practice?
Yes,
it is.
And with a lot of our particularly things like that with a guy that's been demoted or with a guy that's been promoted. You want to make sure all parties are involved as to why those particular processes work. Sometimes on this side it was an elation side, right?
Yeah,
but it's
sure.
usually much more disappointing on the other side of that. But that's part of it. We just like communicating pretty clearly with our guys as best we can, and good or bad. So we just try to teach them real circumstances and how we deal with life's options.
When you take a young man like that and he's just a few months out of his high school career, do you have to simplify things for him or not, or just throw him into the deep end of the pool?
No, I mean, that's what I meant to say earlier, is that he's caught up to the processing of what the older guys have done in he's closed that gap. So there's no limitations on anything that what he can do versus what the other guys who have had some experience been able to do. He's closed that gap, so he knows just as good a football as anybody that we have in that room.
When you got a left-hander, and I could be wrong, and some longtime Buff fan will correct me if I'm wrong. I think Salinesi was the last left-handed starting quarterback we had here at Colorado. Although Tyler Hansen the other day on social media threw out there that he said one time I threw a left-handed pass in the game, but that doesn't really count. Does that change anything? Well, being a left-handed quarterback when everything else is built for the right-handed system?
It doesn't take a long period of time. Right. First of all, he's been throwing with the righties since he's been here. So the guys have been catching the ball with the ball spinning both ways. So that's what made that not a big issue. So he's a really gifted player. Yeah. I think the players have a lot of confidence in him, and not only the players offensively, but the players on the defense as well. They see a little spark about this guy, and so we're going to give him another shot.
I talked to him a few days ago. We did a little pregame interview that we're going to run on Saturday. He's got a presence about him. Mm-hmm. But when you're evaluating quarterbacks, it seems like a lot of successful ones do have a presence about them. Is that part of your evaluation, or do you just look at the physical of what they do on the football field?
No, it's not just the physical part. And I think that's in recruiting, particularly certain positions. You have to really get into the mindset of the player, and usually at the quarterback position, that's really important. Because it's the physical skills. Everybody's going to show you some physical skills, but it's the makeup of really how he's wired inside. I think is really important too in certain positions, particularly this position. So, he's shown the physical skills, his athleticism, his throwing ability, his anticipation, reading coverage, understands how to read defense. So all those things he's passed the test with from an eye standpoint. But I think what makes him unique is that his poise, his confidence, his resolve, and how he handles himself. His systematic approach to the process is really what makes him unique.
That systematic approach, what was his reaction after the game? I mean, he's one of those guys who went right back to the film and wanted to get feedback from your coaches?
As a matter of fact, he and his dad watched the film probably about an hour after the game. I'm serious.
Right.
I mean, that's just kind of how the kid is built, and he's built that way. So we think that's, he's going to make those steps of progress every week. Yeah. He really is. He's one of those guys, he kind of, oh, shoot, I made that mistake. Okay, I'll learn how to do it. He puts that in his computer, and he goes on and moves on again. So if that thing comes up again, he'll know how to handle it. So that's kind of how he erases a lot of that information, particularly if he's had a bad play. He's learned from it, and he's moved forward. You
had a couple of other freshmen that went out there and got thrown into the fire, if you will, last week. And one of them, so Ashton Logan is a freshman. First time, I think, in Colorado history they've had two freshmen punt in the same season. So Ashton's out with an illness, and you get a walk-on kid.
Yep.
Trent Carrizoza, who goes out, who had, by the way, a phenomenal punt. What a great start to his career, right?
That? Yeah,
inside the 5-yard line.
Pins him down deep inside the 5. But, he joined our program in July. Right. So it was really late, and thank goodness he was looking for a spot, and we had a spot, and we have Ashton Logan, who is, like you said, he's sick right now, and he couldn't play in the game, so we put Trent out there, and he's a very talented kid. He has a lot of leg, and he had a great average that day too. But that first punt was a really remarkable punt for him. I'm sure it gave him a lot of confidence at the start.
Yeah. That's baptism under fire right there.
Yeah, it is.
And how about Anthony Hankerson? Now there's a guy that we've heard so much about. If you've been around the program, people have talked about him, but he had a little injury. What is it about him? We saw, 7, I think, carries he had the other day against UCLA. What is it about him as a player that you really like?
He's smart. He's intelligent with just understanding the game. He understands really a lot of football and a lot of positions. And, he's just a unique kid that he just gets it. He's great in protection. He's great in running routes out of the backfield. He's a great runner in the backfield. And he has a little bit of an infectious personality that kind of gets everybody going. You see him running even in the game. You can see he's churning for yards. He's trying to get the extra. He's playing hard, a lot of second effort play. Those are the things you like about young players like that are building the foundation of our program. So, but he's been a tremendous asset for us. We picked him up late. He was the last scholarship in the 22 class.
Wow.
You remember when we lost those couple of running backs in the transfer portal, and then we didn't get another kid that went to Tennessee.
Yeah.
But then we had to, we had him slated to be a gray shirt.
Right.
But because of how that all worked out, we brought him in this summer, and look where he is now.
Boy, when I talked to Darian at the camp, Darian Hagan raved about Anthony Hankerson, about what kind of player he can turn out to be. Hey, our broadcast today is brought to us by Hilton's on Canyon. Are you coming to Boulder for game day? We'll stay at the Hilton's on Canyon, official hotel of Colorado Athletics. We got another segment left with Carl Durrell. We're going to talk with Clay Patterson, tight ends coach. Austin Smith, exciting, another young player for the Buffaloes at tight end. We'll have him join us as well. As we come to you from the Post Chicken and Beer, it's Buffs Primetime. Back in a moment. This is Colorado football from their field. Hey, today's coaches show is brought to us by the Post Chicken and Beer with 7 Colorado Front Range locations. The Post brews delicious, award-winning beers and fries up the crispiest, juiciest hot chicken around. Fried chicken and beer go together like black and gold football. Stop by the Post for all your pregame and game time provisions for next week's show, by the way. We're going to go live to tape, and we're off next week, right, Reed? Because we got a bye week. So we're off next week. So the following week then, 2 weeks from today, we'll be back out here from 12:30 to 1:30. We go live to tape. And, of course, it airs that night on the network from 7 until 8 on our flagship KWA Radio in Denver from 8 until 9, actually. So just make note of that. As we continue with Carl Durrell, head coach of the Buffaloes, we get ready for Clay Patterson, the tight ends coach, and also Austin Smith is going to join us in a few minutes. You and I were talking during the break here. I know frequently you've had great players and come back and talk to the team.
Yes.
The purpose of that, the benefit of that, tell me what that does for the young guys.
Just to understand that I think just in recent years, beyond before I got here, we just haven't had that type of success in a while. Yeah. And me being a piece of that 90s team, that era, it's good to just kind of dip into that every now and then just to express, this is the pride and the tradition of this program. This is how it's been, how it was built, things like that. So it's hard to say with the predecessors that were here prior to or after McCartney, how much they really understood the dynamics of how you build that program, and being able to work for Bill McCartney for a couple of those years, very, very strong years of where we had success, and I got a chance to really learn a lot, from the guy that really, built the foundation of this program. So I'm, it's good to bring that back, but if you think about it, though, Mark, these kids were born in 1998 or something like that.
Crazy.
And they weren't even born don't even know any of these names. So it doesn't relate as well. But it's good to just show them pictures and some success of things of how it used to be. Yeah. That's the best thing to do. But when you have guys come and talk, like Alfred Williams came and talked in front of our team and a year ago, and did a great job, and the guys were just locked in and all that stuff. And I said, he played outside linebacker for us on one side, and Canavis McGee was the other.
Right.
And they see how big he is, and wow, that you guys, he's a big guy.
Right.
So, it was entertaining and it was informative for those guys. But it was really the point to understand that, man, we got a lot of work to build it back where it used to be. So.
And I think as well, so that they understand there's that old line, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you came from, right?
Right,
and
exactly.
So if they see the history of what this is, even though they might not have been born. Austin Smith, by the way, I think was born in 2002.
That's right.
So think about that for a second,
freshman.
right?
Yeah.
He's a freshman. So for them to understand that, I think, would be important so they have a sense of the pride of what this is all about. Right?
And that's really the main issue, what I was trying to do was to understand that this is a proud, traditional winning program. It's won championships, it's won the conference, the Big 8s, Big 12, things like that. This is what we are. This is where our standard is. This is where we have to get ourselves back to. So those are the things. That was really the intent.
Let's start talking about this Arizona team, you're going to say, on Saturday. At 7:30 again, we'll hit there at 5:30 on the network with the broadcast. All right, their offense, they put up some decent numbers on offense. Defense, they've had, mixed bag, if you will. Start the offensive side a little bit. Tell me what you see from the Wildcats.
It's a very good offense, and it starts with their quarterback. DeLara is a really, really good player. Was the starting quarterback with Washington State last year. And Washington State had a good year a year ago where I think they won 8 games. And he's there at Arizona, and he's very, very confident. He has great vision. He gets the ball to his playmakers. He has enough athletic ability to hurt you with his legs, but he's really doesn't want to do that.
Okay.
He wants to extend plays and throw the ball in open seams down the field. So he's been doing those things and really has ignited the skill group. Mm-hmm. So the skill group, particularly with number 2, the receiver, he's a really dynamic player, good returner, both punts and kickoffs. But he's kind of has that extra gear when the ball gets in his hands, he can go. So between the quarterback and that's a key receiver. Number 4 is a big receiver. That's a big target for him. But the other guy's number 6, too, is their running back. He's a very talented guy. And, I know everybody by numbers. I don't really pay much attention. I know my team by their names, but everybody else is number this or number that or number that. So, but these guys are, they're pretty dynamic and make that offense go.
It reminds me, years ago when I was working in the Big East, I was down to Miami for a game, and Bobby Bowden was still coaching at the time at Florida State, the legendary coach. And Bobby had his own TV show. It was one of the greatest things you'd ever see watching Bobby talk on his own TV show. He'd sit there going over tape, and he'd say, number 25 is a heck of a player for us, and didn't know a name of any player on there, his own team. But he'd go through and then he'd stop and go, number 42, his mama make the best cornbread you've ever had. It was the best show. It was like an SNL skit, but he didn't know a name of any guy on his own team.
That's true.
Thought it was always fantastic. The thing about DeLara, and I know you and I were talking this morning, and you said, last week we were starting to generate some pressure on an opposing quarterback. He's the kind of guy that's made some mistakes. Obviously, that's going to be a big part of this weekend, right?
And just like, you saw a couple of instances, just referring to the last game at UCLA, where we were able to get to, DTR, and it was because of, we crossed up the rush lanes, and he couldn't escape, and then they came around the corner and sacked him. Mm-hmm. That, to me, we felt like that's the best way to how you handle some of these mobile quarterbacks is don't give them a rush lane that they can take off and go. Make them cross, do some different things that they're draws their eyes from instead of looking at coverage. Now they're looking at the rush, and they're trying to figure out where to escape, and then you get them. Mm-hmm. So that's the challenge and really the benefit of that. And that's where a couple of things we did pretty well last week. Right. So we want to just continue to add more things in some of those packages so our guys can continue to put pressure on people. Defensively,
the rush defense has struggled at times this year. Where are you seeing improvement there?
The improvement's going to be with adding more. I don't think you can rush with just 3 or 4. Sometimes you're going to have 5-man pressures, and sometimes, if you really want to get a big hit, you try to bring 6 to get home, and then that's when you're really trying to get them to throw it out quickly. Yeah. So we have to have that ability in our defense. I know our players feel confidence when you do those things because they want to attack, they want to get sacks and big plays, things like that, and we got to keep manufacturing better ways each week about getting our guys in position to do some of those things.
The running back for them, Michael Wiley, you mentioned him, number 6. He's got a little wiggle to him, doesn't he? I mean,
he's more than a wiggle. He's got good size, and he's a good pass protector. He's a good route runner out of the backfield. They put him in empty, and he can actually run some routes like he's a receiver. So, I mean, he's a talented, multi-talented kid. So, like I said, between number 2 and number 6 and number 7. If we can kind of somewhat put a lid on those guys, that's going to be a big part of their offense right now.
Number 2 is Jacob Cowling. He's a UTEP transfer for them. 5'11", 175, kind of a water bug, kind of like 28 receptions this season. When you've got a guy that's difficult to contain, Carl, how do you try and put some walls around him?
Well, you play him tight. Yeah. You do. You play him tight and you make sure you have safety help behind, but you don't want to give him a lot of space. That's what you do. You just try to play him close. So you want to play some mans, you want to play some tight zones. But the biggest thing is not to give him a lot of space where he has space to kind of make a guy miss and go. Okay. And that's really a big strength of his.
All right, Arizona defensively, what do you see on that side of the ball?
They're playing pretty well. I mean, I think the one game kind of looked a little bit where they were getting a little bit beat up in the run game, and that was the North Dakota State game. But, I felt like, the last couple of games, they've battled Cal pretty well. they're solid on defense. I think they try to generate pressure very similar to what we're trying to do. They'll try to hunt the quarterback with these 5 and 6 game pressures. They'll try to play man. They'll play zone. They have a number of I call exotic front looks. They can be in 3 down or 4 down, and sometimes a lot of different types of front alignments. So they try to do a lot of stuff in multiplicity to make you work on a lot of things, and our offensive staff has had to do that. But it does have a common theme about what they are, though, when you study enough tape. But this team's a solid defensive team. We have to understand that in certain areas of the field, they're going to try to get after you. And so we feel like we have a pretty good plan against that.
When you talk about the kind of having a multiplicity, if you will, up front there, is that something that makes things hard on a young quarterback like Owen?
Sure it does. And I'll be doing the same thing. If I was a defensive coordinator, I'm going against Owen. I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to give him just change up my looks. I'm going to make sure it looks like it's cover 3 and it's cover 2 and vice. I'm going to make him work for every play. Yeah. And but I think Owen, he'll be ready for that. Sure. He's probably been in his own film room at his own house talking with his dad about all of those things. So right. That's kind of how Owen is. But right. we still have to execute, be in good protection, and guys run great routes. He's got to throw the football right. So it still takes the whole thing to work.
Lastly, here before we let you go, we're going to have Austin Smith up here.
Sure.
He's kind of an exciting young talent, isn't he?
He is. I like him because he's got so much potential in front of him. He's one of those guys. He's got great size. He runs very well for his position, and he's just kind of a little bit new at playing this position right now. He was playing more of a receiver, stand out one-on-one receiver in high school, but he's I think going to be a fantastic player. He's just. He's a freshman.
Yeah, yes. Old line I heard 25 years ago. The best thing about freshmen, they become sophomores.
They become sophomores, right.
That's right.
Exactly right.
Hey, good luck this weekend.
All right, thank you.
All right, Carl Durrell, head coach of the Buffaloes. They've got Arizona on Saturday night, 7:30, down in Tucson. Gary and I and George Hippolyte going to hit there at 5:30 with the pregame show on the Colorado Football Network. As we come to you for the post chicken and beer here in Boulder, we'll take a timeout. Clay Patterson, the tight ends coach, going to join us next. This is Colorado Football from Learfield. Hey, Buffs fans, looking for a place to cheer on the Buffaloes? Join the Buff Nation at the official CU Watch Party locations in Colorado, the Schoolhouse in Arvada, Blake Street Tavern in Denver, of course. And, of course, you want to come by here every Thursday from 12:30 to 1:30 for Buffs Primetime with the post chicken and beer. Every once in a while, we got a Friday game. We'll be out here on Wednesday, but primarily it's Thursdays from 12:30 to 1:30. Player segment still to come. Freshman Austin Smith is going to join us right now as coach, tight ends coach Clay Patterson. Hey, how are you?
I'm awesome, man. I'm happy to be here. It's fun to get out of the building a little bit and get out in town during the daylight and see Boulder a little bit.
Yeah, people are actually moving around during the day.
Yeah.
You're not in the practice field or in your office.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
How have you felt your group has kind of performed so far this season?
Well, I think, Brady has done a really good job of blocking. I challenged him when I got here to be a better blocker, and I think he's coming into his own as one of the better blockers around. And we're still working on getting him the ball in more ways, and letting him be a playmaker. And the rest of them, it's a young group, and I kind of came into the spring not knowing who the next guy was going to be.
Right.
I think the whole room is freshmen except for Brady. So, but I think, Caleb's coming on. He's done a very good job of learning and coming off of an injury, as a kid that missed 2 years with injuries. And he's a freshman, and every rep he gets better.
Yeah.
And he's eager to learn. And, then the other guys have gotten in and been able to catch some balls. And I think every one of them's caught a ball pretty much this year. And
just
so
about.
Just got to grow up, man. That's the main thing is every day's a challenge. And, today was one of them. And getting those guys, we got all the way down to our freshmen getting reps now. So it's a challenge, but it's a fun challenge. And they're a great group of guys to be around every day, and they're eager and they want to learn.
Brady's an awful – if you've got to have, a room where it's mainly youth and maybe one older guy, he's a pretty good guy to have, isn't he? Great character guy.
Absolutely. He's the standard of what we want to be in that room. With the toughness and the way he prepares, and I challenged him to be a professional this year. I know we talked about that before. He's done that, and he's teaching them how to do it and do it the right way. And the best part is when he makes mistakes, he shows them how to handle mistakes, and not get too high or low. And really, the culture of the room is I told him he's going to leave it the way he wants it, and we want to be a tough room. We want to be physical. And that's what I tell them when people call you after you win, you lose, and more when you win than when you lose. But I always tell them the one thing I want to hear is I want people to say, "Hey, your guys play extremely hard. They're very physical, and they play the game the right way." And Brady does that. And So it's a pleasure for me to be around him every day.
So you challenge him to be a better blocker. You talked about that hair?
Yeah, man, that ain't going anywhere. So I'm just we got a deal. It's funny, I've had a couple hair guys, and last year I got handed a rat tail. Like my guy in Minnesota cut his rat tail off, and I have it in my office.
Okay.
So I think Brady's probably going to cut me a lock too to leave in the landmarks. So yep.
Walk into Clay's office, and the curly locks of Brady Russell are going to be hanging there at some point in time. Let's just go through some of those young guys. You and I were just talking off air a little bit. We got Caleb Fourier. There's a legacy guy here.
Absolutely.
Father was a phenomenal player. What do you see from him?
Caleb is a natural football player. He has a ability to play the game, and a lot of times you have to develop that, but he has it. He understands it. Comes from a great line of football, and it's just developing him in the weight room. It just, when you get hurt and you get injured, and like he was last year, it takes time, and so every rep he gets better, and he's a great student of the game, and he loves obviously NFL football, and he likes to see things. So we do something every week where when I need him to look at something and get better at something, I make him a cut up. And when he watches other people do it at a high level, he realizes that his standard of where he's at is not there.
Okay.
And he wants to meet that. So he's unbelievable to work with, and I'm super excited about where he's going to go, because this isn't even close to how good he's going to be.
Really?
Like he's got a chance to be a really good player, but he's got a lot of work to do too, and we need him to grow up really fast.
This position is changing dramatically. It has in the last decade, hasn't it? In terms of what you think about in terms of tight ends, the athleticism they now have. You think of the Rob Gronkowskis and guys like that in the NFL. It really is a position that's evolved over the course of time.
Yeah, it is, and the more athletic kids are migrating to that position. And Caleb's has the unique ability to do both. And can be a guy that can go out wide and line up in line. But it all starts for us with I like old school tight ends a little bit too, though. The one, the days of when they used to clothesline people was the fun part of football, and we still want to be the tough, nasty guys, because what I tell them is if you can't block in line, I can't go get you the ball outside either, because you're going to be on the sidelines. So we've got to develop that toughness piece of it. I think they've all shown they can make plays catching a football now. It's just the inline, get after it, tough mentality of football, and that's where I think those guys will have value. I tell them at the next level, people still want people that will block. Yeah. And if you have both, you're going to get more, have the ability to make more money and have a better career at the next level. So
you got a pretty good, I think, guy historically, and Daniel Graham to kind of hold up as kind of the epitome of what you're looking for, right?
Yeah, Daniel's been awesome too. He's done stuff with our tight end room. He wants them to be successful and understand the legacy, with him. And then you talk about, with Fourier in the room, it's like you got a resource for these guys. And I know Dan reaches out to Austin and these guys all the time and watches the film and helps them. And it's a great resource because, I didn't play NFL tight end. I was a really slow, average junior college tight end. So, there's certain things that they need to hear from him, and he wants us to be successful, and he really cares about these guys. But he's been phenomenal. So I just got to get him as big as him.
Well, yeah, no doubt about that. Yeah,
he's
good luck.
A big guy now.
Yeah, without question. Yep. Yeah. How about Eric Olson?
Yeah, Eric, Eric's done a great job of kind of accepting his role early in the year and then continue to get better every day. And he's going to get a chance this Saturday to go out and play a lot. He's got really great hands. He can run. He's an intelligent guy. And I'm excited to see what he does Saturday because he takes the coaching and he's really, really, hasn't got to play a lot early. And instead of getting down about that, he's done everything he could do to get himself on the field, and he's going to get a chance to do that this Saturday. And I'm excited to watch him.
When this offensive system, and I should mention that Clay, along with being the tight ends coach, although the run game coordinator, when this offense is clicking the way it's supposed to,
yes, sir.
Is the tight end position a big part of everything that happens?
That's absolutely right. It's when we're rolling, they're the guys, and you kind of saw that with Brady on Saturday of catching the underneath ball, going to run for it, catching the ball across the middle in our naked game, and then just dominating in the run game. But, they're out there. We don't even go 4 wide receiver sets, so they're out there every play of the game, and a lot of times there's 2 to 3 of them. So we can't roll as an offense without them doing their job consistently. And I tell them all the time, it's a lot of times they're the guy that, you got to change a game even if the ball's not in your hand, and you can do that by the way you play the game. And a lot of it's just avoiding the catastrophic error of costing your team as well. But when this thing goes, I think you look at us, and good or bad, we have 20 guys that have caught a ball or something like that this year. The deal is out of those 20 guys, we've got to get guys now that can go catch those balls and make plays and make explosive plays afterwards. But they're doing a good job. They've got to get way better, though, for us to get where we want to go.
Austin Smith is an intriguing guy for me. When we'll talk with Austin here in just a few minutes. He'll join us during our players segment. He really has got kind of, from an athletic standpoint, the total package, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a phenomenal athlete. He's a track guy in high school, played receiver. To do what he does from a strength standpoint at 225 pounds, he gets in line and gets after guys. I'm excited to watch him and develop him as he goes because he's still learning the position at tight end and some of the football aspects of it. But his upside is through the roof. I think, I talked to him. Obviously, he made a phenomenal catch and scores a touchdown, and we're all excited. And the next thing I told him was what happened after that. And what we didn't talk about the catch and the touchdown, we talked about the 2 drop balls he had after that. Okay. Because for him to be what we need him to be, we got to consistently have that level of performance. And, every game is a learning thing for these young kids. I mean, it's you ask him, I think he learned more in that game from every other play than the great play that he made. Yeah. And, we just got to grow up at a faster rate. And he's got to grow up at a faster rate, and he knows that. And even though he sounds just like you and has – you're about to listen to the 2 deepest voices in Colorado come up here and get after it. But he's got to grow up, and he knows it, and he's excited to do that every day. And I appreciate him coming to work to do it, too. So
I mentioned you being the run game coordinator. What is that? How does that fit with this staff? What's your duties?
It's pass game because
passing game. I beg your pardon.
Coach DeVan would kick me a little bit on that one.
Yeah, I got to be careful there. Yeah.
I do say I'm the assistant tackles coach though because we're with him all the time. But I help Coach Sanford on a weekly basis of developing our pass game and what we want to do and really in the red zone and getting the right guys the ball and just being efficient with it. Right. And that's what we're trying to increase this of our efficiency and our chunk plays and then I help him on game day with checks and different things. But working with him has been great. We had a really good relationship at Minnesota and here, and it's fun for me to get to be on that side of it too because I'm so involved in the run game with these guys blocking that getting to be involved with the pass game is really is something I've always done and as a quarterback coach, and I really enjoy it. We just got to get a lot better at it.
Quick comment about the Arizona defense you're going to face on Saturday night.
They're very fast and athletic. I think that's the piece that jumps off at you is that. They're gonna fly around to the football. They've got a couple good transfers. One linebacker and some DNs that are going to cause some be a challenge for us. But really that's when you see them, they're fast and they fly around, and we've got to be able to match that. And run the ball at them, but also get out in space and make plays. So it's going to be a challenge for us, as it will be every week. But these kids are really doing a great job of buying them out. We think we played 7 freshmen. We're going to play 7 or 8 freshmen this Saturday. Right. And those guys are really bought in and want to get better every week. And we got to just keep getting better every week and do it at a faster pace.
All right. Hey, Clay, great having you here. Good luck this weekend.
Yep, thank you.
All right. It. Clay Patterson, the tight ends coach for the Colorado Buffaloes as they take on Arizona on Saturday night, 7:30 with the kickoff, 5:30 with the pregame. We'll continue our players segment. The aforementioned Austin Smith is going to join us here at the Post Chicken and Beer. Back in a moment. This is Colorado football from Learfield. Back one final time here at the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder. Time for our players segment here on Buffs Prime Time. Joining us, the freshman out of Texas. What's your hometown?
Cedar Lake, Texas.
Cedar, where's that at?
It's about an hour south of Houston.
An hour south of Houston.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
All right. Well, your coach went line. You had a nice set of pipes there. That's pretty good.
Thank you.
He was just telling me, Austin Smith, by the way. Your dad was a country singer.
He was.
Is that right?
He still does a gigs for every once in a while,
yeah.
But
But actually went to Nashville and gave it a run.
Yeah, he was on Charlie Daniels. He had a show called the Charlie Daniels Talent Roundup.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yep. And he went on there and he did pretty good.
Man, oh man.
He turned down a couple record deals and
okay.
Now he's running his business.
All right. Did you get the musical abilities that your father had or not?
No, his voice is different. I ain't got that voice.
I got to tell you this. So I'm on the practice field one day. And Daniel Graham is out there, okay, the Mackey Award winner, phenomenal buff. And we're standing and talking, and I'm asking about the tight ends. And I said, what do you think of the group? And he went through each one of the guys and liked, said, I like this guy, I like this guy. But he said, he got down to this guy right here, number 82, and he says, now that guy has got everything we're looking for in a tight end. That's some pretty high praise from a guy that knows that position. What's your reaction when you hear that?
I'm just grateful.
Yeah.
I mean, just to be looked at like that. I mean, I'm grateful for the God-given ability.
Yeah.
And the coaching to bring it out of me.
Okay. Where's the athleticism? Your dad's a country singer. Where's the athleticism come from?
He was really athletic.
He was too?
Yeah, I grew up hearing the stories. Oh, he could dunk backwards. Can you dunk? All that.
Outstanding. How did you become a Buffalo from down there in Texas?
I had 9 Division I offers coming out of high school my senior year, but I turned them down to go JUCO. I signed to Independence Junior College, and I signed in February.
All right.
But I started running track, and I run the 100-meter dash pretty fast, if I do say so myself.
Right.
And I was pretty big too. And
you're a large sprinter. I mean,
Yes.
most sprinters are. What are you, 6'5"?
Yes, sir.
Most sprinters aren't 6'5".
No, so
Outside of Usain Bolt, nobody else is.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I got attention from a lot of colleges just from going JUCO because everybody was like, I have another year to recruit them.
Sure.
Instead of let's try to find a scholarship, but Colorado had an extra scholarship and was like, we want to develop you now instead of you going JUCO. And they saw a lot of schools getting on me early instead of wanting me to go JUCO, and they wanted to snatch me up first, I guess.
Yeah. When you look at this position, we were talking with Clay about the diversity of of the job you've got, right? You've got to be part offensive lineman, part wide receiver.
Yes.
Where do you see, as you look at yourself as a first-year guy and where you need to grow up, where do you see where you need to put the most work in at this point?
Definitely blocking.
Is that right? Yeah.
Definitely blocking.
Get your athletic guys so I can go out and run with guys, right?
Yeah.
That takes a totally different mentality, though,
Yes.
doesn't it?
It takes a whole different mentality of catching a ball or putting your face inside a 300-pound dude.
Right, right. Can you learn that, or do you have to have a little nasty inside that chest of yours?
I think it's both. You got to have a little grit in you, and then just learn the technique. Coach Patterson always talk about you 225. You're not going to go move a 300-pound D lineman.
Right.
You got to have the right technique, and I really see once I started using the right technique, it's getting there.
Ultimately, when you grew up as a player, you weigh 225 right now. Do you want to be 240? Do you want to be 250? How big do you want to get?
I think probably about 245, 250.
And by the way, didn't you have an enormous growth spurt?
Yes.
Like over the COVID period?
I wouldn't call it a growth spurt as much as just lifting. I never lifted. I wanted to be a basketball player, so I was.
Do I have this right? I think you were 6'5", and you weighed about 180 pounds, roughly?
175.
175 pounds.
In January.
And over the course of kind of the COVID thing, how much did you gain?
I was 175 in January and then 225 in June.
50 pounds.
Yes.
Everyone out here in the audience is going, so what? I gained 50 pounds during COVID too, right? You guys are all thinking, not the same kind of weight as my guy Austin picked up here. Give us a thought about this game this weekend. Here you guys sit at 0-4, right? You got your backs are against the wall a little bit. You guys want to go and prove on something on Saturday, don't you?
I think we should we can just prove that we the team that we think we are.
Right.
Not the team that everybody else think we are.
Sure.
I mean, you look at the team, we got so much talent. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to be 4-0 right now.
Yeah.
Just the thought of not executing and not getting it done right now is mind-blowing. But I think we can turn it around. It's way closer than we think.
This guy's an exciting young player for the Buffaloes. Keep an eye on number 82. Good luck this weekend.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Number 82, Austin Smith joining us as we put a wrap this week on Buffs Primetime here at the Post Chicken and Beer. Don't forget, Saturday night, we're down in Tucson, 5:30 pregame, 7:30 with the kickoff. Gary, George Hippolyte, yours truly. This has been Colorado Football from Learfield.